Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Mona Kosar Abdi. Here are the top 5 things to know this Friday. Number 1, the flood disaster in Texas.
At least 2 people have died in the flood disaster in southeast Texas. In some areas, more than 40 inches of rain fell in 72 hours, stranding hundreds of drivers.
More than 1,000 people had to be rescued. A disaster has been declared in 13 counties.
Number 2, new details about that mysterious complaint from a whistleblower triggered by a promise President Trump allegedly made to a foreign leader.
Sources now say the call involved Ukraine. Details of the conversation remain unclear, but the Director of National Intelligence has refused to allow the Inspector General to share the complaint with Congress as required by law.
House Democrats were already looking into reports that the president's attorney Rudy Giuliani was trying to pressure Ukraine to investigate possible business dealings related to former Vice President Joe Biden and his son in that country. Last night, Giuliani offered conflicting answers on CNN.
You did ask Ukraine to look into Joe Biden.
Of course I did.
You just said you didn't.
No, I didn't ask him to look into Joe Biden. I asked him to look into the allegations that related to my client, which tangentially involved Joe Biden.
But just be careful about what you say. I asked you, did you ask Ukraine to look at Joe Biden? You said no. Then you went on to say that you did.
The acting director of national intelligence is set to testify at a public hearing next week. Democrats are demanding answers. Number 3, a New Jersey man has been charged with scouting terrorism targets in New York and other cities for Hezbollah.
Possible locations included the New York Stock Exchange, Times Square, airports, tunnels, and bridges. Prosecutors say Alexei Saab was trained to look for soft spots in targets to maximize damage.
Authorities say he has been part of Hezbollah for more than 20 years. He first came to the U.S. from Lebanon in 2000 before becoming a citizen in 2008.
On to number 4. Students around the world are skipping class today to demand action on climate change.
Hundreds of thousands of students are expected to participate in the so-called climate strikes. It comes 3 days before the United Nations Climate Change Summit.
Meanwhile, some dire news about the bird population. A new study warns the United States and Canada have lost 29% of their bird population since 1970. That includes some of the most common birds like sparrows and finches. Scientists say climate change, human development, and pesticides have played a key role.
Domestic cats get the blame as well. They kill an estimated 2.4 billion birds every year.
And finally, number 5, a baby girl in Maine who already has a lucky number and a great story to tell about her birth.
Madison Smith Gall was born on September 19th, 2019 at 9:19 a.m. And there's more. Her birth length measured 19 inches.
So to recap, she was born on 9/19 at 9:19 and is 19 inches long.
That's a lot of 19s.
Can you imagine how insane her 19th birthday is going to be?
Oh my goodness, You're so right. 19 is her number. Everything's going to happen on 19.
She's going to party like it's 1999.
Oh, there you go.
All right, so we're going to move on because that was bad. Yes. Let's get right to that big story, the deadly flood disaster in eastern Texas, where more than 40 inches of rain fell in some areas, and it is still raining. New images are coming in, including this dramatic scene, all those cars and trucks abandoned by their owners on this flooded highway near Houston. New video shows the flood waters rising up to mailboxes in this neighborhood. The governor has declared a disaster in 13 counties. Some people have been stranded since early yesterday.
Even guests at this hotel had to escape water pouring into the lobby. NBC's Elizabeth Herr has more on the historic conditions. Elizabeth, good morning.
Kenneth and Mona, good morning to you. You know, with more than 9 inches of rain falling in one day, Houston just set a new record. And yes, in other parts of Texas, they're measuring the rainfall not in inches, but in feet. And it's not over yet.
First responders racing to save lives in Texas, where today more rain could drench areas already underwater.
These people have been standing around for hours now, and it looks like it's going to be a while longer.
Torrential rain from what was Tropical Storm Imelda, overtaking roads and highways, trapping and stranding so many drivers.
I've been stuck in the Beaumont area now for about 15, 16 hours.
And everybody was like, get out the car, it's about to get higher, you can't do nothing about it.
In Harris County, officials saying more than 1,000 people have been rescued so far, using everything from airboats, tractors, and even dump trucks. The conditions here, so treacherous, authorities confirming one driver did not survive.
We always told folks, turn around, don't drown. In this case, it seems like he didn't heed that warning and continued to drive through it, according to witnesses.
Water up to mailboxes in some neighborhoods. This was the only way out, and others forced to wade through chest-high water to get to higher ground.
It's been relentless, and we just can't escape. It's like we're on an island here.
The deluge, a devastating blow for homeowners hit hard by Hurricane Harvey just 2 years ago, and now their homes flooded again, some with 4 to 5 feet of water.
2 years ago, everyone in this street did this. You have the energy to do it again?
No.
This weather event was so severe, it is being called a 1,000-year flood. And the last time Texas saw one of these monster storms, it was just 2 years ago with Hurricane Harvey. Kenneth?
Both storms devastating, thinking about the people down there in Texas. Elizabeth, thank you.
President Trump is holding a national security meeting at the White House today as he decides how to respond to the attack on Saudi Arabia's oil industry.
Pentagon officials are expected to present the president with a range of military options, including potential targets in Iran. Sources say the president will be warned if he decided to go with military action, it could escalate into war. Overnight, Iran announced its leaders have received visas from the U.S. to fly to New York to attend the UN General Assembly next week. President Trump has scored a legal victory in a bicoastal battle to keep his personal financial information under wraps. In California, a judge ruled in his favor, blocking a new law that requires presidential candidates to release 5 years of tax returns in order to appear on the state's 2020 primary ballot. In New York, the president is suing Manhattan's DA after he subpoenaed his accounting firm for 8 years of his state and federal returns as part of an investigation to hush money payments. Now to the new details on that whistleblower's complaint triggered by a promise President Trump allegedly made during a phone call to a foreign leader.
Overnight, sources confirming to ABC News that the call involved Ukraine. House Democrats were already looking into reports the president was trying to pressure Ukraine to investigate dealings related to former Vice President Joe Biden and his son. Details of the call remain unclear, but the complaint has resulted in a standoff between House Democrats and the intelligence chief. Here's ABC's Pierre Thomas.
The Washington Post reports an official in one of America's spy communities became so alarmed by a secret promise President Trump allegedly made in a phone call with a foreign leader this summer, they lodged an official whistleblower complaint with the intelligence community's Inspector General. The Inspector General investigated, determined the accusation to be credible and of urgent concern, and wanted to share it with Congress, as is required by law. But he was blocked by the acting director of National Intelligence, Joseph McGuire, and the Justice Department, who disagreed. Furious Democrats accusing the Trump administration of a cover-up to protect the president.
We're determined to do everything we can to determine what this urgent concern is, to make sure that the national security is protected.
And the Inspector General meeting behind closed doors with the House Intelligence Committee. But sources say he refused to reveal the nature of the whistleblower's complaint or whether it was focused on President Trump.
Who do you think that this allegation, this complaint involves?
Who is in a position to influence an acting director of national intelligence who has not been on the job very long to do something completely unprecedented?
ABC News has not independently confirmed the Post report, which does not name the foreign leader or the nature of President Trump's alleged promise. For his part, the president dismisses it all as fake news, adding, "Is anybody dumb enough to believe that I would say something inappropriate with a foreign leader while on such a potentially heavily populated call?" But this is not the first time his communications with foreign leaders have come under scrutiny. In a 2017 Oval Office meeting, he was accused of sharing classified information with a number of Russian officials. Among the foreign leaders he spoke to this summer, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, Britain's Boris Johnson, the president of Ukraine, and Russia's Vladimir Putin. There's a law specifically designed to make sure whistleblower complaints actually get to Congress. Chairman Schiff says this is the first time a director of national intelligence has stood in the way. He says the director better have some answers when he testifies in public next week. Pierre Thomas, ABC News, Washington.
Mark Zuckerberg returns to Capitol Hill today for more meetings with lawmakers.
On Thursday, the Facebook titan met with President Trump at the White House. The president tweeting that it was a nice meeting. Facebook described it as good and constructive. The meetings come as tech giants are facing more regulatory scrutiny.
A New Jersey man is charged with helping a terror group backed by Iran. Investigators say he scouted dozens of high-profile locations for possible attacks, including sites in New York, Washington, and Boston. This morning, an American man is under arrest, accused of working with an Iranian-backed terror group, scouting locations in the U.S. to attack. Authorities say his targets were crowded and iconic landmarks, including Times Square and major airports and bridges. 42-year-old Alexei Saab has been arrested on terrorism charges for allegedly supporting Hezbollah.
Hezbollah is a terrorist organization that's controlled and funded by Iran. They're across the world. They've been associated or involved in a number of attacks.
Investigators say Saab was living in New Jersey and entered the U.S. in 2000, applied for citizenship in 2005, and became a naturalized citizen 3 years later. Authorities say he made 10 trips to Lebanon in the past 2 decades, receiving extensive weapons training on AK-47s and M16s, and learning to make explosives. Court documents show drawings Saab allegedly made of bombs. The FBI recovered photos and videos from Saab's devices that agents say depict his potential targets, including Boston's Fenway Park and the U.S. Capitol in Washington.
This strikes me as somebody that's firmly in place, committed to Hezbollah, and providing them specific information to potentially launch an attack, perhaps in the near future.
Prosecutors say the suspect confessed that he was paid $20,000 to marry someone he hardly knew and gain her citizenship. Officials say that fraudulent marriage is what led them to his initial arrest. And the former airline mechanic being held in Miami due to potential terrorist sympathies will be back in federal court today.
That's when Abdul Alani is expected to enter a plea on charges of sabotaging a packed American Airlines jet back in July. Alani was ordered held on Wednesday when prosecutors revealed he had ISIS videos on his phone and that his brother in Iraq may be involved with the group. He faces up to 20 years in prison on the sabotage charges. Moving on, a statement from Nike is making one thing completely clear. It says, quote, Antonio Brown is not a Nike athlete.
The company dropped the Patriots receiver from its roster of endorsed athletes. Nike made no other comment on that timing of that decision, but it comes as Brown is facing rape and sexual assault allegations from his former trainer, which he denies. Brown faced reporters yesterday for the first time since joining the Patriots. He declined to answer questions about the allegations, saying his focus is on football.
I'm super grateful to be here, to play for Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. You know, I got a lot of the offense to learn and catch up, but I'm excited and grateful to be here and to be a part of these guys.
And all Brown answered 4 questions at his locker. The entire interview session lasted just over a minute. He's expected to play Sunday against the Jets.
And a Mayo Clinic child psychologist says that picky eaters may actually have an eating disorder. They may suffer from avoidant or restrictive food intake disorder. Sufferers are also selective about food that they are unable to maintain their body weight. The psychologist suggests letting them have larger portions of the food that they enjoy. Parents may also want to seek professional help.
And coming up today is the big day for alien enthusiasts swarming to Nevada. What started as a Storm Area 51 Facebook event with more than 2 million people responding. We'll see how many actually attend the festival.
But first, students around the globe walk out of school to protest inaction on climate change. We'll go across the pond for more on this one.
Welcome back. Students around the world are walking out of school today to demand climate change action. The so-called climate change strikes have already gotten underway overseas. So let's go across the pond to our friend Maggie Rulli in the London Bureau, who's about to go cover the strikes taking place there in the UK. Maggie, good morning.
Hey, Kenneth. Good morning. Yeah, the strikes are just about to pick up here in the UK, but we've already been following videos that have been coming in from really all over the world. When I got in, Kenya was having massive protests. We also saw them in Australia and the Czech Republic. I mean, when they are calling this global climate change protest, they really are global. Many of the organizers say they expect this to be the largest climate protest in our planet's history. It is all going down today. I know you guys are going to have some pretty major ones in New York later as well. Now, what's so remarkable is, Kenneth, I want you to just kind of like look at this video for a second, because do you notice the age of all of these protesters? It's really incredible. They're all young people. This is a movement that's been driven by the youth, driven by students, and a lot of the momentum behind the movement goes back to Greta Thunberg, that 16-year-old Swedish activist who has now become sort of an icon of this movement. She just sailed across the Atlantic. She spoke before Congress last week saying, trust in the scientists, trust the science behind climate change. Now we see sort of that message being picked up around the world by students, but they're also asking for regular people, for older adults, for people who are working, for websites to also strike and shut down in protest. So again, we don't know what the numbers are going to be just yet, but just these early videos coming in are really remarkable.
Just incredible.
They truly are. All right, now in Scotland, new underwater video is reigniting the interest in the Loch Ness Monster. Here in America, we're talking about aliens, but across the pond, you guys are dealing with the Loch Ness Monster. So, is it the real deal?
Well, I want to say yes so badly to this. I was so excited when this video came out. I'm sure you all have seen it by now. It looks like this monster eel. I mean, look at that. You see this and you're like, this is proof. The Loch Ness Monster exists. Our entire bureau here, I believed it. Alice, who's been on this story since the beginning, she believed it. Didn't you, Alice? She just laughed at me. I don't know if she actually ever believed it. It may have only been me. But thanks to some great reporting by Alice back there, she called up the people behind this that put out the video, and they said they didn't mean it as a prank. They just were kind of putting out this interesting, murky video, and then the internet took it by storm. It went viral before they even had a chance to tell people it was actually a log. It wasn't even a giant eel. I know. But
see, that's why you can't believe everything you see on the internet.
You can't? That's
I've heard.
But just to bring this full circle is that the European eel is actually very endangered. You know, we're talking about the climate today, so just a little plug for endangered species.
She's been over there for a week and she knows everything about Europe now. Hey, and speaking of knowing everything about Europe, this actually may help you out. We have some important advice in case you meet the Queen over there across the pond, Maggie.
Grab a notepad and a pen, girl. Take some notes.
I'm ready.
This comes from Formula One racing star Lewis Hamilton, who opened up to the BBC's Graham Norton about getting a dressing down over his table manners from, get this, the Queen herself, Maggie.
So, Maggie, I'm pretty sure you heard this, that a few years ago, he was one of 8 guests invited to lunch with the Queen and was seated right next to her. So, unfortunately, he dared to attempt to speak to her at the wrong time.
How dare he?
Yep.
Disrespect. He said.
Wait, Maggie, there's more. There's more, Maggie. Hold on.
He says she told him as she pointed to his left, quote, no, you speak that way first and I'll speak this way. Then I'll come back to you.
And then Maggie, the Queen reportedly doesn't speak to people on her left until the pudding and cheeses are served. And I've seen you eat cheeses and pudding before here on this side of the pond. And I also know that you like to talk, Maggie, and that you wouldn't care about protocol with the Queen, so we're trying to help you out.
Before you get deported.
I really appreciate that. Although, Mona, don't you feel like that's what Kenneth lives by as well? Has he spoken to you on his left yet?
No, not until after the commercial break.
Not until after the commercial break, Mona.
Maggie knows.
I'm like, I'm anchored with Kenneth so I can sit next to the Queen, you know?
Oh, Maggie, I can't wait for you to meet the Queen, and it's going to be something else, because I feel like that's going to be the one time you bring it in. And somehow, I was like, if the one person to make Maggie just completely tone it down.
Can she handle this?
I was going to say, is it though?
We can't wait. We cannot wait.
All right, guys, I appreciate all the tips. Keep them coming.
International incident ahead. And good luck going out there to cover that event, Maggie. And we really appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
All right, let's check our notifications now.
That's right. Starting with the annual running of the Weiner dogs in Cincinnati.
And go. Let's see who wins. Look at them. Go,
it's the Weiner dog.
Oh.
Hey. The one that's just like the hot dog.
And they got buns on them and everything.
Speaking of food.
Hey, did you know it's National Pepperoni Pizza Day? We celebrated it earlier this month on World News Now.
This month or this
morning?
Take a look.
Oh, this morning. Look at this sucker. Whoa. That is a whole slice for National Pepperoni Pizza Day. I can't
drop it.
You know what? Let me just get right on. Excuse me, Mona. Excuse me for a second. Let me just get there.
Oh my gosh.
Ow.
I'm starting to think you guys make these days up just on set.
When the moon hits your eye like a big piece of pie.
Take another bite.
That's
Take another bite of that thing.
I said I wanted sausage on it.
How many slices do you think that
So
is?
yeah, the heartburn I feel right now feels like that was a month ago,
Right.
but that was this morning.
I like the technique. Where'd you learn that? You fold it first, then you hold it out.
I'm a New Yorker now.
There you go.
I know these things.
A true Southern New Yorker.
Yep, there you go. Enjoy National Pepperoni Pizza Day. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Hey, and Madame Tussauds finally got it right with Queen Bee.
Lord, it took a minute. The London location has unveiled a Beyoncé figure that fans are calling irreplaceable. The wax statue immortalizes Beyoncé from her Coachella performance last year.
She's sporting a yellow cropped sweatshirt, denim cutoffs, and iridescent knee-high boots. And Madame Tussauds says that Queen Bee has even taken the place of Queen Elizabeth among the British royals, just for now. And just like the real Queen Elizabeth, she only speaks to people to the left first.
So it's been a long road for Beyoncé with quite a few wax fails in the past, like this one.
No.
Oh, wait for it. And this one. Who that?
And then this one. Ooh.
Really, who's that?
Which looks like a department store mannequin.
Or Britney Spears after 2007. Oh.
Now to the invasion heading toward Area 51 this weekend.
The visitors descending on the Nevada desert are Earthlings, not extraterrestrials. They've come from around the world for an event that started actually as a Facebook joke.
In Nevada's dusty desert, the stage is set for an invasion.
Hopefully I capture some aliens.
People have come from as far away as France, camping just miles from Area 51, the legendary classified base that believers say is home to aliens.
I get here and it's just phenomenal, the people that I see.
The base has been getting a galaxy of attention since June, when Maddie Roberts started a joke Facebook page called Storm Area 51. They can't stop all of us, calling on people to raid the base today, September 20th. 2 million people RSVP'd, prompting a warning from the military which said, quote, "The U.S. Air Force always stands ready to protect America and its assets."
All right, Beatrice, there was no alien.
FBI agents even showed up at Roberts' door.
I was absolutely terrified. I didn't even know they were FBI agents until they presented their badges.
After all the attention, Roberts decided to turn the Area 51 raid into a music festival, moving it to nearby Rachel, Nevada, a town with a population of 54 and one hotel.
You need everything. You need everything that a small city has, including a small hospital.
Roberts ended up canceling the festival because of the logistical nightmare. But despite getting a cease and desist letter from Roberts, his former partner isn't budging. She insists the show must go on.
The security's here, the medical's here, the food is here, the toilets are here, and most importantly, the people are here.
For the believers, they're preparing for whatever may come this weekend.
I got 60 beers, I got about 8 gallons of gas.
I hope we'll always see some stuff out here.
I'm expecting to go out in the desert and fall asleep if nothing's going on.
Now, most people camping out say they have no intention of actually storming Area 51. The FAA, though, has closed airspace in the area this weekend to keep personal drones from flying. Personal drones or UFOs. Get it? X-Files.
There you go. Hey, coming up, we'll give you a look at all the big events in the day ahead.
And wait till you see the Mr. Rogers Halloween costume that has some asking, is anything even sacred anymore? We'll show it to you after this.
Here's what to watch out for today. President Trump and the First Lady will welcome Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison for a rare state dinner at the White House. The two leaders will have a bilateral meeting in the Oval Office and hold a joint press conference before the state dinner.
A week of climate action kicks off with worldwide strikes, including a rally in New York with teen climate change activist Greta Thunberg, who began protesting at the age of 15 outside the Swedish parliament. She'll be joined by other youth activists at an event, including a Puerto Rico Day of Action to mark the second anniversary of Hurricane Maria making landfall there.
Democrats running for president are making their pitch for addressing and limiting the effects of climate change at a climate forum hosted by Georgetown University Politics. And in Iowa, candidates are set to speak at the LGBTQ presidential forum hosted by GLAAD.
And the Storm Area 51 party get-together festival begins today north of Las Vegas with some controversy and concerns. One concern surrounds how many people will actually show up at the Air Force facility, believed to be hiding evidence of UFOs and extraterrestrials. 2 million people said they'd attend, at least on Facebook. As of yesterday, a few hundred people were at the site.
Plus, don't forget to tune into the debrief for an update on all our top stories in the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics.
All right, so finally, on this Friday, it may be a beautiful day in the neighborhood, but what would Mr. Rogers say about this?
This new costume for Halloween is raising eyebrows. The red sweater, the tie, the shorts. A dead ringer for Mr. Rogers, right?
I'm Mr. Rogers, duh. The company behind the nicest neighbor costume says they don't take themselves too seriously, but some are asking, is nothing sacred? So that's our question of the day. Is this the best or worst Halloween costume? And if not, what is? Tell us in the comments or tweet us at ABC News Live, because Halloween is right around the corner.
Feel free to provide pictures as well. We'll love those.
It could be a sexy Mrs. Doubtfire.
So she would come out with that costume and say, won't you be my neighbor? And someone would, yes, I would like to be your.
A lot of people are trying to be that person's neighbor.
Right, exactly. All right, folks, it's been great to have Mona co-star Abdi here all week long for It's Morning America. Mona, you're headed back to D.C.?
No, I'm headed north of Las Vegas to storm Area 51.
There you go. She'll be reporting live from there this weekend.
I'll let you know.
Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see ya.
Take care.